All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 7 life lessons that I learned this year. As right now, you guys can see I have a candle lit and it's been a minute, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so number 1 to start off with is to stay away from drama. So basically this year, I have had a lot of drama going on and I really just don't even understand why. I've just had a lot of drama with my people in my personal life and just, me kind of giving into every little whim. And the crazy thing about the drama is oftentimes it doesn't even have to do with me directly. It's usually just like one of my friends being involved with this person and this person, he said, she said. So if that is one lesson that I've learned this year, definitely is to stay away from drama, because literally it is insane how much time you waste when you're occupied with other people's drama, and it doesn't even have to do with anything. So something I've learned this year to really wrap this whole point up is, in general, just like if you're involved in drama, it just takes away from the things that you truly value. And once you really understand that, it's insane. It is insane. Okay, your heroes are not coming to save you. Throughout the entirety of last year, I watched so much content, and it's insane to think about how much content I've watched. All your favorite creators, if you're in this space of the internet, those people, you just watch them incessantly. You're on Pinterest, you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, you just see all these people just living their lives. And something that I really took away from this is your heroes are not coming to save you. As much as you think that they're going to come through the screen, both figuratively and literally, they're not going to come to your room, sit where I am right now, and be like, oh, okay, let me help you make money, let me help you learn the skills that you need to do so and get into a better career and all those things like that. They're not coming to save you. And it's not to say that it's bad to watch content, but it's really understanding from what lens you're watching it, and coming at it from the lens of, let's say you're just watching content, you're trying to learn. You have to understand between learning and just watching things for entertainment. And for me specifically, I realized that a lot of the content I was watching was strictly for entertainment purposes and not really for actually learning. I wasn't taking any notes. I wasn't even actively applying it. And some basic metric that I've learned from Alex Hormozi specifically was that if you're watching a piece of content and it gives you very concrete practical advice, and after the video or the piece of content that you're watching is not done, when it's done and you don't apply it after, it's entertainment. It's not even for knowledge or learning. So once again, your heroes are not coming to save you. Number 3, control boredom. Boredom is one of those things that, at least in the early part of December to about the end of December, that I had to learn to control. About 2 years ago, I feel like I was able to really cope with being by myself a lot more, and I realized that I just didn't really know how to control boredom. And if you saw my tweet a couple weeks ago, I said boredom is either your greatest weakness or your greatest blessing, something on the lines of that. And what that essentially just means is that you can either, if you learn to control boredom, it can be a cascade and a catalyst rather to your own creative ability. Now, if you're a creative, you're a writer, if you're somebody who makes content or has to have any type of creative thing, an entrepreneur or a coder, if you can learn how to harness boredom, it is something that is beautiful. But on the flip side, it can be your greatest curse, because then you can end up just scrolling on social media like I did, just scrolling on Twitter incessantly, that you really don't need to do. I actually was just doing that yesterday. So it's not something that it needs to be played around with. So a practical thing for you to do in general to control boredom is just to learn to sit by yourself. Whether it be those times where you find yourself scrolling, just set a timer for 10 or 15 minutes and just let yourself be, let your thoughts go. Whether you're in the car driving, turn off the music for 15 minutes. It's a challenge for yourself, but it really does help you control your levels of boredom. Now, number 4, the life that you have is the life that you chose. This is a quote directly from Luke Belmar himself. He tweets this, he says it all the time, and I think at the end of the year, when reflecting on it, I realized that every single action that I chose to do reflected in the life that I chose to have. And what this essentially means, it says it in the thing, is that you choose the life that you have. If you are not where you want to be at the end of the year, it is your fault. And that is something that I've learned for myself. I had goals that I set for myself early in the year, whether it be during the summer or whether it be in the early parts of the year. Like February of last year, I set some goals, and some of them I just didn't achieve. But the crazy thing is as I'm looking back on it, I can point to this thing and this person, this thing, but in reality, it was just me. I chose to not having the ability to say no. And this bleeds on to number 5, learning to say no. Learning to say no is one of the most important lessons I can think of that I learned for the last year. If you cannot say no, you will not get anywhere. And I really think that in terms of success, there's probably about 2 things that I've understood that have gotten me to achieve some of my things in my academic life. It's just the ability to say no. Given that it was my first semester of college, you know, you want to have fun and do everything. And honestly, personally, I don't think I really had that much fun. I mean, I spend a lot of time out and doing things, but like, it wasn't anything like, oh, like I've achieved this and I achieved this and I did all this. It really wasn't all of that. So I think the 2 things that really, if I can think back to my past and think back to like specifically like high school, like what things got me to where I wanted to be, it was really just learning to say no to people and really just the ability to handle pain. And I say learning no is probably the bigger one, because think about it is when you spend a lot of time by yourself and then all of a sudden you just get a lot of invites by people, that is when you probably need to say no more, because basically you're just spreading yourself thin with all these different tasks, all these different people. And I think what I've learned is just to be very selective of who you spend time with, and just being very selective with what you say yes to, because when you say yes to one thing, you're really saying no to another. And if that comes into the place of your goals and you look back at the end of the year like I did and realize that, oh wow, you didn't get to where you wanted to be, you know, it's more of a thing of saying, you know, no. Now, nothing changes if you do not. Kat, really just reflecting on the last 2 of them, this really sums them up both, but nothing changes if you do not. You cannot force anyone to change around you. You cannot, you know, tell if somebody's asking you for anything, you cannot change them. You cannot. Don't try to change anyone, because at the end of the day, if people really want to change themselves, they'll do it. And something that I've learned about 2 or 3 years ago, I think I was reading Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and I think it was that book actually. I'm not sure, but one of the things I learned from one of the books I was reading was that you cannot change others before you change yourself, because in theory, you're asking other people to change, but then when they see you doing some actions, you're basically just contradicting yourself. And you're a walking contradiction. You tell one person to do this, yet you do the exact thing that you just told them not to do. So it's better to focus on yourself and to, I'd say, build your own moral compass, build your own set of ethics, and really lead by action and lead by example, rather than trying to constantly tell people what they should and ought to be doing. Now, number 7, change your environment, you change your behavior. Going back to number 5 and what we talked about there, change your environment, change your behavior. Something I learned in the later half of the year is that if you change your environment, you change your behavior. And what this essentially means is that, once again, you alter your environment, you alter behavior. And that is one of the easiest ways to, once again, directly change your behavior. Say, for example, that you're trying to learn how to do math, right? And basically all your friends are those type of people who are like, oh, okay, I'm not good at math, I'm not going to do this. Okay, you're going to eventually, over time, you're going to be in that environment and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do math, F math, I'm not doing that. Versus, let's say that instead of hanging out with them all the time, you say, okay, I'm going to spend half my day going to tutoring and I'm going to spend the other half of the day, I'm going to go spend with them. Okay, you're putting yourself in a new environment. So then by spending that half of that day, just even half of that day with that new group of people who are learning math, trying to progress themselves, you're going to change your behavior. And 9 times out of 10, you'll probably actually be good at math. And that is something I've learned this year is if I want to be at a certain level and a certain level of character, like I'm probably going to be by myself for the most part. But when I find that environment, whether it be my reference group, changing reference group, or just having just a new group of friends, you will change your behavior. And it's insane how much just hanging around a new group of people, going to a different place to work, any of these little small things that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis can change your behavior. So that was my 7 life lessons for the year. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see a condensed version of this, the link will be in my bio. It's in my Twitter. And do what you want with this information and have a blessed week.